Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sons of Sequoia podcast, broadcasting live from Wheat Ridge, Colorado, the home of the champions. Today, we're continuing our week on artificial intelligence, and instead of focusing on doom and gloom and the end of humanity, today's episode will be devoted to 7 benefits of artificial intelligence. Of course, it's being developed and used not to hasten our end, but to enrich our lives, and we're going to look at some of the ways in which it does enrich our lives today. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. It's a beautiful day, and this will be a very interesting contrast to Monday. When we start talking, you can talk about the technical aspects, but also the benefits to help humanity. Mm-hmm. And AI is helping humanity, and so let's focus on that today.
Yes, indeed. And on Monday, we'll just point out that we discussed AlphaGo. That was a movie about DeepMind's Go playing artificial intelligence that sort of beat the world champion. If you want to check that out, that's available on our YouTube channel, Sons of Sequoia. That's SeQuoyah. Also available in audio form wherever you get your podcasts. But shall we just jump straight into the article?
Yes. And actually on Monday, we did talk part of that video. What we talked about on Monday was that the intersection between machine and man, humanity and AI, there's where we have to learn how to use it. Mm-hmm. And that's what this article is about. So let's go to it. Let's dissipate the anxiety around AI and focus on what good it can bring us.
Sounds good to me. So I believe that you may have your speakers up. Can you turn them down?
Thank you.
Okay, so this is 7 benefits of AI that will help humanity, not harm it. And like you said, and like the author said, let's dissipate the anxiety around AI and focus on what good it can bring up. And the author, of course, is Kashyap Vyas. He's an entrepreneur, marketer, and writer. He holds a master's degree in thermal engineering with several research papers to his credit. Kashyap primarily authors in-depth content in the science and technology space. You can find more about him on LinkedIn. So we'd like to thank Kashyap for providing us this listicle for which we can base our discussion today off of.
Yeah, it's a very good list, and he speaks well.
Okay.
It's a good article.
So, artificial intelligence is an intriguing concept, and innovations in the field are growing by leaps and bounds. The implications of AI, both positive and negative, have fascinated experts and amateurs alike for many years. But there are some great benefits of artificial intelligence, yikes, that are perhaps not frequently considered. Digital technology has been developing at breakneck speed over the last few decades, and it is safe to say that today, most of us have significantly more technological power in our pockets than we had in our entire homes back in the 1990s. There have also been significant breakthroughs in the field of machine learning and deep learning. These concepts have allowed machines to process and analyze information, and in some cases, to learn for themselves in a very sophisticated manner. Thanks to these developments in AI technology, machines can now learn to perform complex functions such as facial recognition. That being said, there's been significant debate regarding the risks posed by artificial intelligence to humanity. There have even been concerns about AI taking control of our lives to the extent that it may prove to be detrimental to humanity. It is also feared that as a result of the application of AI into our daily lives, unforeseen consequences could occur, such as the development of killer robots and putting people out of work. There are also allegations that AI has already been used to manipulate elections. Fears of the potentially darker side of AI are one thing, but they are balanced by some surprising potential benefits that AI and machine learning could be poised to deliver. Here are some of the most notable examples. How do you feel about that introduction?
Okay, that's a good introduction. He's trying to give both sides of the coin, mm-hmm. And I think it does a fine job. Got to be careful. AI is just technology, is all it is, and there is a danger of putting a personality onto technology. Technology doesn't do things; people do things, and people do the technology. And I think that's what he's going to get into the value of technology to people, and how it's going to help everything that we do. But also the introduction I think it's a good introduction about the risks and the benefits. But again, I don't know. I get a feeling like I don't want to put a humanity onto into technology. We have a tendency to do that.
Hmm. Well, I think technology is the frame in which we live our lives, and I think that there's a movie from early 80s, Koyaanisqatsi, and it's about how, throughout the history of man, nature was where we lived. We lived in nature. And we fundamentally shift since the Industrial Revolution to living in technology. Now, so, the way that we perceive life, the way that we perceive what needs to happen is sort of a technological frame upon which we hang everything. So, whereas nature is cyclical, where things are born and they die and they return to the earth and they're used to sort of, fertilize the field. Your dead body is used to fertilize the field. Um, the technological world requires constant positive growth. If you look at, a stock market or a balance sheet for a company, if you're not growing, you're dying. And that's not the way nature works. And the fascinating thing about artificial intelligence is there could be a time where artificial intelligence figures out a way to sort of make the frame, the technology that we live in, cyclical, and sort of have us sort of live within technology, but in harmony as we did in nature. Or it could run rampant and kill us all. One of the two. But we're not talking about the negative effects today. We're talking about the positive effects. So shall we get into number one?
Sure, yeah, and I think Cash App does. It's a good introduction, and I think that as we get into this, we realize that technology is just technology. It's how humans use it or how humans view it.
Yes.
And I think that what he's saying here is very important. And even on Monday, we said the same thing on Monday, where we have to be careful. We have to be careful saying that when we begin working along with technology, technology becomes growing importance in our lives. It can be positive and negative, like anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just talk about the positives today. And maybe another podcast will look at some of the negatives, and you have to balance those two.
Yes. Okay. And I will say this, and of course we have an answer to this. We have a reversal, but the fear here that AI will put people out of work, and then the number one benefit, or the number one on the list, these used to be people doing jobs. Now they're robots doing jobs. So I mean, that's. The first benefit is it can do jobs that humans used to do. But I will point this out before we get into this because I always like to talk about in 1900, 80% of jobs in America were agricultural, 20% were industrial, financial services industry. By 2000, that had shifted. So if 80% of the jobs became 20% of the jobs, did you have 60% of the people out of work? No. As we went from an agricultural society to a manufacturing society to an industrialized society, the jobs went to different places. So as these jobs become the purview of machines, we hope that just like when we went from an agricultural society to a manufacturing society, we find places for humans to fit in where they didn't before. Right?
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
so do you want to read number one?
Okay, number one, AI has and will continue to enhance automation. Today, AI augmented robots can easily perform a variety of automated tasks, both inside and outside of the factory, without the need for constant human intervention. AI is poised to be a transformative technology for some applications and tasks across a wide suite of industries. Machine learning, deep learning, and other AI technologies are already being used to reduce human workloads in assembly, packaging, customer service, and HR, among other areas. This has reduced operational cost and employee costs substantially, bringing about a level of sophistication, automation never before seen. A beautiful example of the wonders of AI in enhancing the level of automation can be seen in the Japanese machine tool builder, Okuma. In 2018, they highlighted a multitude of innovations to showcase the future of smart manufacturing. This includes robots for plants of all sizes, new and improved machine tools, and smart machine tools. Such examples clearly demonstrate the potential of AI for the future of work and industry. We may also see a rise in AI and robots working alongside human operatives too in the future. Called cobots, these robotic co-workers can help assist, rather than fully replace, human workers to help improve the overall efficiency and general happiness of their human colleagues. Companies like Amazon are already seeing benefits from this kind of working relationship between us and the machines.
There we
Number one.
go.
Number
So
one.
obviously, AI operated manufacturing, it's been a it's been a thing for a long time. I mean, if you consider a computer, I think of like computer number controlled wood cutting, or milling. Like that can do work that humans really can't. And sometimes you want a CNC made product more than you want something that was made by hand because the tolerances are more precise. So, and then you sort of extrapolate, we had CNC milling, 30, 40 years ago, circuit number controlled milling. But you sort of extrapolate, where can we go with this technology? As technology advances, the products we'll be able to create are going to be more and more magnificent. And we'll be capable of creating them with less human intervention. I think that's a good thing in the long run. The question is, are we going to get those products and use them correctly? We put an iPhone in everyone's pocket, and they've used it to look at cat videos and try to overthrow democracy. So we're not quite using it correctly yet, but maybe we'll get there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, speaking of Amazon, and since we do this podcast 3 times a week, there's big news out of Amazon yesterday. Did you hear about the Blue Origin space flight?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I got to pull this up.
Yeah, Bezos and 3 other people. And it was interesting, the people he went up with.
Yes. Here's my question. I'll pull up the picture of the rocket.
Yeah, and what the article says here is that companies like Amazon are already seeing benefits from this kind of working relationship between us and the machines. Well, it's a lot. That's a simple sentence, but Amazon is doing a lot, but not only in manufacturing.
Yes.
Bezos is also doing it in transportation and space. Did you pull it up, David?
I have the image. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put the image on the screen right now, and I'll ask you the question. Do you think Jeff Bezos may be compensating for something with the shape of this rocket?
I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah, I'll talk about it real quick. We're looking at the Blue Origin rocket. It looks like a giant penis, and I don't think there's any other way you could describe it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. It does. You can't help but
So a billionaire, he wants to be cool by being going to space. And of course, Elon Musk is more focused on satellites and sort of building out, satellite internet infrastructure. Jeff Bezos, he's saying, I want to be the guy in the rocket ship that goes to space. But his rocket ship looks like a giant dong. And it's less cool than I think he thought it would be, right?
Well, I don't know. I have a feeling I don't think he meant that at all. That's just what people are gonna. It is pretty obvious. I mean, you can see those kinds of images everywhere, and I can't say that he meant to do that.
No, he didn't mean to do it, but but
it happened.
Yeah,
it's there, and it's undeniable to a majority of humans. I'm sure, especially. Anyway, yeah.
So I saw the Twitter trend yesterday, and I clicked on it, and I was reading through someone's article. Jeff Bezos goes to, and it was probably 3 comments down because it was like, first man space flight. Can't believe he's doing this while his workers have to pee in bottles. And then the 3rd comment was, does anyone else think it looks like a giant dong? That was the 3rd comment. So I think they have a point, right?
It's undeniable when you bring it up.
Uh,
Yeah.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's totally off the topic, but I feel like since we broadcast 3 times a week and that happened yesterday, we would be remiss not to bring it up since it's current events.
Yeah, you're right. Some things you see you can't unsee.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's right or wrong or good or bad, I can't unsee that image.
Like when the plans were presented to him for that rocket, did he take a look at it and he said, "Looks good"?
Yeah, I don't know why, but it looks good to me.
So that we got off track there, but I'll get us back. Should we continue on with the
Okay.
article?
Yeah.
Number
Yeah, number
Number two,
two.
artificial intelligence can help eliminate the necessity for humans to perform tedious tasks. One of the main benefits of artificial intelligence is its ability to reduce the drudgery involved in many work tasks. Repetitive, tedious tasks in any job are the bane of many human workers around the world. Some are so boring that mistakes are commonplace, as human attention can be difficult to sustain when conducting repetitive tasks. Such tasks, however, are perfectly suited for computer automation. This is where sophisticated artificial intelligences could come to the rescue. Machines excel in taking care of standardized processing work like data entry, freeing up human operatives to concentrate on more creative and interpersonal aspects of their jobs or lives. Let's take the example of the banking sector, which has seen something of a major breakthrough in this area. Thanks to the applications of AI, financial institutions today are seen taking full advantage of this technology to make banking quicker and easier for the consumers. This has already gone some way in giving financial workers some reprieve from the tedious aspects of their job and focus on deeper research and analysis of all around consumer experience. In fact, a recent survey of IT leaders by MIT found that a large proportion of respondents welcome the use of AI to do the heavy lifting when it comes to repetitive tasks. Nearly half, 47% of them, strongly agreed with the statement that thanks to AI, we could dedicate more time to thinking creatively about the business challenges we and our clients face. Okay, I buy it. You're still muted.
I buy that too. I think that's true. And I think that, yeah. And I think the key there is the tedious tasks that, because humans are good at some tasks and machines are good at some tasks, and I think there's so many examples of we don't do things the way we used to because machines can do them so much better.
Yes, well, I mean, I've done jobs where I've done data entry before, where that was a significant portion of the job. And the thing is, I'm good at data entry. I can stay focused, I type fast, I figure out shortcuts. And I know for a fact that in those positions, this is, 10 years ago or whatever, that a computer would be better. For just remembering what those positions were like, even at the time, I'm like, isn't there a way to programmatically automate this? Like, shouldn't we be able to programmatically automate this? Like, because I can function for 8 hours a day at 99% efficiency. You put me to 12 hours a day, maybe I'm 95. You put me to 18 hours a day, maybe I'm 90. Now, a computer would be 100% 24 hours a day.
And continual.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had to go to the bathroom. I had to drink coffee. I had to take a lunch break. A computer could do some of these jobs that I've done. And I'm thinking about this, like they could do it just as fast or faster, probably faster. And they could, I mean, I saw, even though I'm good at something, that was sort of the interesting thing about AlphaGo. Like you sort of get into a flow state, you're listening to music, you're entering data, and you sort of zone out. You sort of zone out and zen out. And you're sort of helping an organization put all the ducks in a row and you feel some sort of value. They're paying you for it. And it's tough to say this isn't something a human should be doing because, you enjoy doing something, you're good at it, they pay you for it, but you realize that 10 years, 15 years down the line, this position won't be staffed by a human. It's fascinating to me. And I think that's what a lot of people have difficulty doing. What if you had done that for your whole career? And you're 25 years into a career and they tell you, you know what you've sort of based your life on? Well, a computer can do it better now. That would be a difficult pill to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true.
But a lot of the robotics and a lot of the machines that do the tedious work are designed after how humans do it. So the humans have helped them design these machines.
Hmm.
So that's not that much of a explanation to relieve their anxiety
Yeah.
and their sadness of, oh no, I lost my job because machine can do it better. Yeah, but the machine could have done it if you hadn't done it first to show how to do it. And like you said, you found the shortcuts. A machine will not find shortcuts. Humans can find shortcuts, and you can create a machine to do those shortcuts because a lot of robotics were designed after human workers.
Hmm. But
Same
yeah,
thing here.
that one makes sense to me. And I just want to say there are people that, you know, that the drudgery involved in work tasks, repetitive, tedious tasks, they sort of, I mean, I think I'm one of those people. I sort of see it as a reprieve from having to deal with maybe people that you don't really like dealing with. You can sort of just sort of get fully inundated in a repetitive, tedious task, and that sort of becomes sort of a nice escape in your job. And so there's some people that don't see the repetitive, tedious tasks as but then again, I've never had a job where that was 8 hours a day of doing that or whatever, you know. I could see where it would sort of become dehumanizing after a while. But should we continue to the next one? Because this is the first one that I think is interesting.
Yes, number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Improving weather. It's funny that he picked weather forecasting is another way AI can benefit humans. It's pretty interesting. Okay, you want me to read this one?
Sure.
Oh, it's a short one. Weather forecasting is highly complex and calls for intensive computing and deep learning networks that can empower computers to sift through and analyze large data sets far faster than humans ever could. In the past few years, we have seen the use of artificial intelligence and its associated technologies used in weather and climate forecasting. Called climate informatics, this field has already proved to be a very fruitful one, enabling greater collaboration between data scientists and climate scientists, bridging the gaps in our understanding. There are countless applications of AI aimed at accurate weather forecasting. IBM, for instance, used its computers to improve its forecasts back as early as the mid-1990s. Such systems have been further enhanced with the incorporation of AI with IBM's graph system.
Well, I can tell you right now, you know my feelings about the weatherman.
Yeah, yes.
The weatherman is always wrong. In fact, I did a video about it years ago.
You did.
Did you like
You
it?
did. I did like it. It's, yeah.
I mean, it's 3 minutes. Should we watch it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. You going to play it?
Yeah, I'll play it.
Yeah, it's well, I would say tongue in cheek. I'm sure you're serious about it. For me, it was like tongue in cheek, but there's a lot of good points in your video, David.
Uh-huh. I'm going
Yeah,
to I'm going to share
play it.
screen so that you can see it. Or you can hear it too. Are you ready?
Ready.
You may recognize the music. In his classic song, Subterranean Homesick Blues, Bob Dylan famously says, "You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows." And while Dylan's right, I don't think he went far enough. I think that you don't need a weatherman at all. You see, the problem with the weatherman is that he's always wrong. You see him on TV grinning, shuffling around, pointing at his green screen, acting like he's the king of Earth. He'll assure you that we should have mild weather for the next few days, and then the next thing you know, boom, storm of the century. And it would be easy enough to manage if there were any warning. But when you're relying on the weatherman, there's always no warning. No warning whatsoever. He'll tell you, "A major snowstorm's coming in, so prepare to hunker down, folks." Then the next day it's 70 degrees and sunny, and you're at work in snow boots and a parka feeling like an idiot. It's almost as if he's deliberately screwing with you. If structural engineers were wrong as often as the weatherman, all of the buildings and bridges in the world would collapse. If we depended on the weatherman the way we depended on real scientists, our doom would be certain. The weatherman likes to play at science and simultaneously hedges bets by couching his wildly inaccurate predictions in the form of percent. But even though I said earlier that you don't need a weatherman at all, he does serve one purpose. You see, human beings have an innate need to complain. By virtue of who we are, we get angry, we get upset, and we need to express that anger. We can't just bottle it up, or something bad is bound to happen. And that is the purpose of the weatherman. Complaining about our coworkers or bosses could have negative career consequences. Complaining about our friends can negatively affect our interpersonal relationships and social standing. And complaining about our family can damage relations with the people who matter to us the most. So, instead of complaining about someone that matters, it's much better to complain about someone who doesn't matter at all. Someone whose value to you and whose value to society is negligible, even on a good day. Someone in an obsolete occupation whose job can easily be done by a widget on the home screen of my phone. The weatherman. This has been my Sunday Soapbox. Thanks for watching. There we go.
You turned it. See, David, you turned it around. You turned it around. See, now there's value in the weatherman, because when he's wrong, you can complain about it and feel good.
Yes.
Don't complain about your family, your coworkers, your friends. Let's just complain about the weatherman.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one. I like that video a lot. That was a good one, David.
Also,
but
go ahead.
But also that I think a lot of the weatherman talks about meteorology, not climatology.
Yeah.
And I think the IBM graph system, the atmospheric forecasting system, has a lot of data, global data for atmospheric forecasting as far as the climatology is concerned. And so there's value in it, but also it can be looked at differently, as your video just illustrated.
Yes. Well, I mean, also, we live in Colorado, so just north of us, about 30 miles, is NOAA. And NOAA does all of the weather predictions. And it always sort of ground my gears. Even here in Colorado, these weathermen, they're sort of like local pseudo-celebrities. They get up there, and NOAA will say something, and they'll try to put their own spin on it. It's like, oh, you think you know more than NOAA? You obviously don't. Like, you're a fraud. Like, whatever NOAA says, that's what they use as their baseline sort of forecast. But whenever they try to put their own, oh, I'm looking at the data and I see something different. Oh, you see something different than, hundreds of real scientists doing real work? Like, I don't believe you. I believe them. That, and going back to the article, the amount, we watched AlphaGo on Monday. The amount of permutations or combinations or whatever of potential Go positions is more than the number of atoms in the universe or whatever. So I think that using AI, if you could to sort of predict weather, is a fantastic application for it, because it can see more probabilistic and deterministic factors than humans can. And it can analyze things as they change in real time, probably better than humans can. And they can get very granular and sort of give you confidence intervals that are more accurate than any human could ever develop using the tools currently available. So yes, I see that this is good. I'm all for it. I'm all for AI weather prediction.
Well, the AI, there have been models before, and you take data and you validate the models, like finite element modeling, but what I think what AI is doing is going much deeper in learning from the actual data, like satellite, like IBM's graph system, the satellite data, and also learning at incorporating other pieces of information of the solar system, the universe, the planetary system, and how everything works together globally, which haven't had that data in that much detail before. And when you have access to that much data, your models are going to become much more sophisticated. And I think that's kind of the idea behind AI, how AI is impacting weather forecasting. And when they say weather forecasting, that's a big term. It's not just what's going to happen this afternoon. It's like, how is our climate changing?
Yes.
Like global warming, where is it? Where is it going to be more severe than other places? When you have global warming, it's not just everything gets warm, but it's going to be different in different parts of the globe,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's going to be different seasons. It's going to have different effect, and so the AI can do that much better than human models. Which human models, a lot of them are more, they're probabilistic and stochastic, but they are much more limited in their scope. But AI can incorporate much more data because we have large big data sets now.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it could drill down probably more geographically specific. So in Colorado, we're having a drought that would have been considered a 100-year drought, but we had a 100-year drought in 2002. So 19 years later, we're having another 100-year drought. And people are sort of ascribing it to some of the deleterious effects of climate change. Um, Now, I think AI will be able to drill down on a river basin by river basin uh, projections. So it's like, yeah, the state is in a drought, but how does that play out in the Colorado River Basin as opposed to the Arapahoe River Basin? How does that play out in the Rio Grande River Basin as opposed to the South Platte River Basin? I think that AI might be able to give you a more granular look at what sort of water will be available to farmers and ranchers and to municipalities, um, in more finite geographical areas than just what does the drought say about Colorado as a whole.
Because they see the other thing too is historically a lot of the scientists and science is more reactive to what has happened, creating models to try to predict the future. But the prediction of the future is only based on how much information they had in the past and how well the models predict the past or from the prediction of the past. But with AI today, with so much more data, they can actually look at much more sophisticated models, as you say, more granular, but also more proactive in looking at the future.
Yeah.
So the forecasting is going to be much more informed through AI, through more of these analytical models. He talks about climate informatics, where you're combining the climatologists with the data scientists. And so it's not just saying the numbers say this or climatology says this, it's combining them into a different type of analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think accurate weather forecasting, I think, is much too limiting of a term. It's understanding how weather changes in the future. Say, yes, you're forecasting weather, but not just tomorrow or this afternoon. You're looking at how the weather of our globe is changing.
Yeah. And I also think that what you'll see for weather, in terms of weather, not climate, is computers have the ability to say there was the exact same pressure, whatever, inches of mercury in Kansas in 1991 in this county. And we're seeing that same exact phenomenon in this county in Nebraska in 2023. And in Kansas, there were devastating tornadoes, F5, F4 tornadoes. So we can confidently issue a tornado warning 5, 10, 15 minutes earlier because the AI picks it up and it's sort of doing a reverse search in the database. Whereas a human wouldn't be able to do that. So it's like, oh, I'm looking back 35 years. This data leads me to believe that we should ring the tornado bells 15 minutes early. You might save lives. Just because the AI has the ability to use a broader search area and incorporate more data from across all time.
You're absolutely right. I think that was his next point on number 4.
Oh,
You're right. See, it's just a natural progression. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think he saw that too. And I think it's very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does help predict what's going to be happening with the weather or disasters and devastations,
Mm-hmm.
hurricanes and fires and earthquakes and tsunamis.
Yes.
Tsunami prediction. So there's so much that can be done with AI.
So I may have been accidentally reading ahead and that became my argument. But should I read this segment?
Sure. Number 4.
California saw number 4 is next generation disaster response is another reason why AI is good. California saw major devastation in 2017 due to the onslaught of wildfires. More than 1 million acres of land was reported burned in wildfires that also claimed the lives of around 46 people and led to the loss of hundreds of homes. The large-scale wildfires in Australia between 2019 and 2020 also caused severe damage and loss of life. Due to the increasing threats of extreme weather events like these, more and more government authorities and organizations are embracing artificial intelligence to help fight these disasters with algorithms and satellite data. AI has ably demonstrated its utility in building smart disaster responses and providing real-time data of disasters and weather events. This helps save valuable time, enabling disaster response in a more targeted and efficient manner. Once sophisticated enough, it could theoretically offer warnings with enough time to safely evacuate any people in a danger zone. It is also expected that deep learning will soon be integrated with disaster simulations to come up with useful response strategies. That makes sense to me.
Oh, it makes sense to me too. To me, again, it's being more proactive than reactive. Like, oh, let's go here, let's go there. No, this is going to be a hot spot, so let's prepare for that. To simplify that a little bit, but yeah, I think that the AI, what AI will be doing, is understanding what is happening rather than reactively, more creating models and saying predicting what can happen much faster than humans can, than humans have in the past. And time is a precious ingredient in saving lives and saving property and saving and addressing these disasters. And it's not, he mentioned wildfires, but also you have earthquakes. You can predict earthquakes. You can predict tsunamis. You can predict hurricanes and tornadoes, on and on and on.
Flash floods.
Oh, that's one thing I was thinking about. They know that these wildfires today will be ingredients of more disasters later, like flash flooding
and mudslides.
Mudslides. That's another thing. Yeah, mudslides, flash floods, but also it changes the topography, it changes the relief, and it's going to change the stress mechanisms, and it could in subsequent years here, and not a long time, but as soon, it could start having different types of earthquake type events. And all this can be part of a projection. As we saw on Monday on Go, they can see all these possible scenarios where humans, it'll take a long time to figure it out. We can do it, but it takes time. AI and computers can do it much faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also there's sort of this hope that, like you said, like with Go, that we get from, oh, there's about to be a tornado, get out of here, or, oh, there's about to be a fire, get out of here 10 minutes quicker, to, oh, drill a hole 45 feet into the ground and fill it with concrete and rebar. And that'll keep this hill from falling on your town in 10 years. I mean, we might get to prescriptive, suggestions like that from AI, where it's like, oh, you would never have thought about doing this. Sort of like Move 37 in AlphaGo, where you do something 5 years in advance and it sort of saves your hide 10 years down the road or whatever, or 5 years down the road, but you would never have seen it, but a machine could see it.
Yeah, you said that much better than I did. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, in essence. Yeah, that's very good. And I think that is one really valuable. But also, they also meant AI has ably demonstrated its utility in building smart disaster responses and providing real-time data of disasters and weather events. And I think one thing is prediction. The other really valuable thing is responses. Because it has so much information, so much data, so much things happening at once, the response strategy can minimize the time, but also do the right things at the right time. Their responses as far as time, decision making, implementation, uh, uh, launching different types of initiatives, pulling back, shifting in disasters on how to get this stuff done uh, to save lives and save property uh, and to achieve your objectives in lives and property. The the time and effective and efficacy of doing that, AI can enhance that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the response to that also is the key. So you have prediction and then you have responses. And then, as you said, once you have your responses, you can learn from that because AI learns from data. They can learn what happened and they can say, this is how you move forward afterward.
Mm-hmm.
And so with a disaster, you're going to have the prediction of it, the reaction to it, the mitigation of the risks of it, but then going forward to try to lower the likelihood of it happening again. And AI can do all those things. Humans know how to do them. They can put what humans know how to do into AI, and then AI can do what humans do. They just do it faster.
And better.
And so and faster and better. And anyway, these two are very, very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear how AI can really help humans do what they do better and faster because time is lives.
So we continue. Number 5.
Number 5. Yep.
You want to read it?
AI could free humans from putting their lives on the line. There's a picture of a
Soldier.
soldier. Looks like a radio operator with a scope. Okay. It's not an M15 anyway. It is a common trope that AI will one day be the end of humanity as robots and machines either distill, destroy, or enslave us all. However, what is usually ignored is the fact that the incorporation of AI in our daily lives could help free us of many responsibilities that we do not want or need. A persuasive example in this regard is the future of war and weaponry. AI shows immense promise as a potential application in war, as stipulated in Paul Scar's book, Army of None. As stated in his book, in the future, militaries and machine intelligence are expected to work in tandem to conduct wars. This would likely mean AI and robots taking on the more dangerous roles in combat instead of putting human beings in the literal firing line. Needless to say, there are some very serious ethical issues to work out first before we give AI the ability to potentially take life. But AI could help save human lives in other areas like disaster rescue situations. We may one day see AI-powered firefighters or assist first responders to locate and save lives during environmental or industrial catastrophes. Okay, well, he talks about the military. Then at the end, he just talks about
Firefighters and first responders. Yeah.
search and rescue. Yeah, but yeah, I think a key phrase is there are some very serious ethical issues to work out first. But then he says to potentially take life. But there's other ethical issues about just creating AI and weaponry for the purpose of war.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen in our history, human history, the downside of war is the loss of life, but also there's other negative aspects of war as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it is not an effective way to resolve differences. And I think the ethical issues of resolving differences should not be war. I think there should be something different than that. Because when humans start wars, maybe machines get destroyed, but people who start wars want power. And so there's some ethical issues there on how to create more of a society. So yes, it can save lives in the short term, but also we have to be careful that it doesn't create a a source of expediency to declare more war.
Hmm.
We don't want to make war easier.
Yeah.
We want to eliminate war. At least that's my opinion. That's my opinion that I'm going to throw out there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. It can relieve human deaths and human casualties. But I think the ethical issues is let's be careful that we don't use this to make war easier. Let's try to eliminate war and have something substitute for war, and that is something where people do not need the power because the power is distributed to where everyone benefits,
I
where it's unequal.
I think it's already substituting for war. I think that the idea of soldiers in a war zone, that's true still. I mean, that's one way that war is conducted, but another way that war is conducted is the Chinese. Joe Biden yesterday accused the Chinese of hacking Microsoft Exchange servers and getting access to corporate emails of people on Microsoft Exchange servers. He named the Chinese. We see the Russian Fancy Bear hacking outfit hacking commercial concerns and holding them hostage for ransomware, exposing the vulnerability of our infrastructure, even our pipelines in the southeast. And you look at these are asymmetrical forms of war. And these are asymmetrical forms of war that can be addressed with artificial intelligence. Now, one thing that's extraordinarily scary is our push for quantum computing may invalidate all of the current SHA 256 hashing, because quantum computers may be able to break encryption. At that point, how valuable is Bitcoin? How valuable are cryptocurrencies if encryption can be broken with a quantum computer? Who will get to quantum supremacy first? Will it be the Chinese? Will it be the Americans? That is a big question. And I think that's a question that will mean more in terms of what shapes the 21st century than how many aircraft carriers we have, how many fighter jets we have, how many boots we can put on the ground in a war zone. And so I do think that you can think of war in terms of AI may facilitate or sort of accommodate fewer boots on the ground in a skirmish between two great powers. But a skirmish between two great powers may, in the future, be a skirmish between one great power's AI versus another great power's AI. To sort of see who can subvert the resources of their adversary or bolster their own resources with greater computer processing and intelligence.
Because war is about power. At least that's what I say. There was I think it was a Star Trek episode. I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast, but I think it was a Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk and Spock they came onto this world and they were having a war, and the war was on computers. And so they walked into one of the war rooms. It says, "Yeah, we're having a war." "Oh, you are?" "Yeah." And so and all the war was all digital.
Mm-hmm.
And they says, "Oh, we just took this many lives. We just took this many lives, this many lives." And we said, and I think Captain Kirk or Spock says, "Those are real lives?" He says, No, they're just theoretical." But then once the war was over and one side won, then they said, "Oh, we won, and because we only lost this many lives, the other side lost this many lives. So now each of us have to define who we're going to pick to eliminate in our society."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's crazy. It's this, we lost the war. Now we have to pick the people that need to be eliminated because that's what we agreed upon in our war.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's offline here, but who knows where this is going to go, because there will be wars and rumors of wars, because people don't change, and people still want power, and they still want to win, and they want more power. And so I don't know how this plays out.
Well, I honestly think that that's sort of going on today. And we did China last week. We discussed Chinese issues, and the United States and China have conducted war games, sort of war analytic scenarios, and they've determined that the United States can't stop China from succeeding in a ground invasion of Taiwan to sort of control and annex it and sort of bring it back into the fold. China would argue that it was never out of the fold. It's always been part of China. Now, those games, I'm sure they use very complicated analytical techniques to sort of make those determinations. Now, the reason China wouldn't do that right away is because that will start a cascade of events that maybe is negative for them. Now, what if a computer could be strong enough to do the war games and sort of see the geopolitical fallout, sort of predict the actions of world leaders, and sort of provide them with a threat and risk assessment for that activity? Would they then be more likely to do it if the computer is telling them, oh, the fallout, you can manage that, this will be a net positive? Would they be more likely to take aggressive actions if it was backed by artificial intelligence telling them this is a viable option?
That's a good point. And whose AI was that? Was it China's AI, or was it someone else's AI?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can program these things and feed them different information, because the information you feed a neural network to the information China has to feed it is different than the information the United States has to feed AI to come up with machine learning type system. So what information do you feed it? So there are some, well, that's just how we see things today. I think in the future, it's going to really evolve into something that's much more sophisticated than what we even see today.
I'm sure that your and my understanding of how war works is not as nuanced as the actual way that it works today, let alone how it's going to work 25, 30, 50 years into the future.
I agree.
But hopefully AI does save lives of our boys in uniform and gals, guys and gals in uniform. And hopefully it saves the lives of the guys and gals in uniforms of all nations throughout the world, whether they be our allies or our adversaries.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, David. The men and women in uniform everywhere, they're people. I want to say that. The men and women, the brave men and women everywhere in every nation, whether they're on our side or against our side, they all have parents. They all have mothers and fathers and families. And I think that it began to really disturb me when they said this was a very good attack because we only lost this many lives, the other side lost this many lives. And I say we should be saddened on both sides, because there's families on both sides, and we should just eliminate all of this crap.
Yeah.
Anyway,
like the classic Golda Meir quote, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm paraphrasing, but talking about the Palestinian aggression into Israel and their retaliation. And she said, you know what? Someday we may forgive them for killing our children, but can we ever forgive ourselves for killing their children? That's what she said. Let's continue. On that bright note, let's continue with number 6. AI is on call all the time. AI never sleeps. Rather than an ominous statement, this is actually potentially very beneficial to us all. Humans need to eat, sleep, rest. Machines and AI do not. So long as it has a supply of electricity, in theory, AI can work all the time, for eternity. Excluding breaks like popping to the toilet, having a cigarette, or eating food, humans tend to work between 4 and 10 hours a day. AI never needs to go for a bathroom break, sleep, or eat, and so can be working 24/7 at peak performance. This will reduce errors, maintain critical services, and enable businesses and other organizations to provide services that their users rely on, like helplines, etc. For educational and research institutions, this could lead to some major breakthroughs and future discoveries that would have wide-ranging benefits for us all.
I agree.
That makes sense. I think we can just move on to number 7, right? There's not much to talk about there. That makes sense, right?
Well, I could talk for a whole hour on education and research institutions, how it's going to change things. It's going to change learning. It's going to change uh, higher education for sure.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine, I think 2 days ago, and he says, "Yeah, we're going to get back to normal." And I says, "No, we're not going to go back to normal. This pandemic has shown how things can be done online, and we've learned more about how to do things online, like we're doing now with this podcast
Mm-hmm.
and the YouTube and this YouTube on the YouTube channel, Sons of Sequoia podcast YouTube channel. It's not going to go back to the way it was before. We're going to keep getting better and better and progressing. And education, I said, so many people learn through this thing now instead of in a classroom. And so, yeah, so much more is going to be changing, because once that lecture is up here, once the instruction is here, once the ability to learn is right here, then they don't have to go to a classroom anymore. They can look at that thing over and over and over again. And I would suspect in 10, 20 years, maybe even less, that a majority of education, especially in the professional schools, is going to be here and not in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we could talk forever about that. At least I could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the point that the article is making, though, is that AI never sleeps. And that's, I mean, it can be used in educational and research institutions. It can be used for helplines. And sort of like how that affects educational institutions, like asynchronous education, where you post a video on YouTube and YouTube always makes it available to your students even at 3 a.m. You don't have to be there to lecture them. I mean, that's an obvious benefit, but I think that people can see, like I was saying with my data entry job, a decade ago, I could do it and I was good at it, but I was 98, 99% efficient, and AI would be 100% efficient. I worked 8 hours a day, but really, did I work 8 hours a day? I took an hour-long lunch. I took, bathroom breaks, coffee breaks, whatever. And an AI would work 24 hours a day with a 100% efficiency. So, I mean, I think that's all that this article is alluding to. Now, the pandemic and sort of implementation of technological solutions in educational, that's more than just being on call all the time, That's sort of introducing tools beyond, 24/7 availability that haven't been introduced, that are changing the face of education. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think it fits under this topic.
Hmm.
I think it definitely fits under the topic of it never sleeps. The instruction is always there.
Yeah.
It's always there. And I can be really careful to make sure, sometimes I make mistakes, but I can really careful to make sure that this is exactly what I want to teach. I go through it a number of times. It's exactly right. Well, if I did that in a classroom, if I did that over and over again,
Yeah,
I'll make mistakes.
10 takes, 15 takes or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
I'll make
edit
mistakes.
stuff down.
Yeah, and to say, yep, that's exactly what I want to say. If I do it in the classroom, do it 3 times. Oh, no, that's not right. I made a mistake. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But then once it's there, it's going to be continual. But anyway, I just, it's simple. AI never sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's important.
Yeah.
And also, AI makes essentially no mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
It can make a mistake, but essentially it's not going to make any more mistakes. And so once humans begin to rely on it, then they'll accept it more as improving their lives.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to the last one. Sound good?
Number 7, yeah.
You want to read it?
AI could create new jobs, and this is pretty much what you said earlier on. Okay. While there are some very real concerns about the potential to eliminate or make some types of jobs redundant, AI could also open entirely new areas of work. The application of AI in businesses will also force the job market to evolve, which, with the right preparation, could be a very good thing. From various maintenance and supporting roles to entirely new careers not yet dreamed of, the widespread adoption of AI could be a brighter future for all of us, and we've been here before. Similar fears to those around AI have surfaced around most new forms of technology. Sometimes the fears are well-founded and sometimes not. But either way, the genie of new technology cannot be put back into the bottle. All we can do is learn how to use it wisely and to our advantage. And that is your lot for today. While there are some very real concerns about its development, AI could be the best thing since sliced bread if adopted properly.
The devil's in the details, though, right?
Yeah, he's right. And anything could be good or bad, no matter what it is. And yeah, it's a good way to end a good article. So it's a good article, and also it's just brings people to thinking about the positive aspects.
Yeah,
and I think that's pretty much what we're doing today. And I like what we did today.
Well, it's like manufacturing. You manufacture tractors, you require less agricultural labor. The John Deere tractor, it can plow the field. What that would have taken a team of horses and 10 men or whatever. And it's like, well, you're going to need 10 fewer farmers, And it's like, yeah, but they'll find work elsewhere. I mean, the procession of history marches on. And you look at the adoption of the internet. If you were a person that sat in a newspaper office and sold classified ads all day, I'm sure Craigslist was really scary to you because they did your job for free. And that's true. There are hardly any more classified ads in the world anymore. And yet the world has moved on and found other ways to sort of cope. So I do think that AI, it's scary because it's new. And it does sort of threaten our traditional ways of thinking. Could it threaten humanity? Perhaps. But I think for now, we have to sort of learn to live with it because it's coming whether we like it or not.
Well, the people who used to work at Sears don't work there anymore. But the young people, they're not going to be looking for jobs at Sears. They'll be looking for jobs at other places. And there will be plenty of jobs. They're just not the same kind of jobs. And so people will, since I think the number of jobs the variety of jobs are going to be beginning to grow. And so with technology, so everyone is not tied into just you're either doing A, B, or C. You can do a multitude of types of jobs. And I think in the future, what's going to happen is people are going to start migrating to what they are very good at. And so as the jobs begin to multiply in type and the different type of jobs and the different technology and expertise that are needed, people will begin to be put in positions better suited for their personality and ability. I think we're going to have much happier, much more rewarding workforce in the future because people will be put exactly where they're good. And so one benefit of work is you're respected, you do good work, and you respect your own work, and you work around people that respect you. And so it's not so much about the money. It's about doing good work, and you did good work, and you're around people who understand that and respect you. And I think if you can put people exactly where they're good, then that's going to be a better workforce. I remember when I worked at an organization where we were doing research. This guy came into our group, and he kept making mistakes, and he just couldn't do. We were doing rock mechanics, and he just couldn't do it. And oh man, he's going to really get someone hurt because he keeps. So finally, he moved to a different group. But in that group is exactly what he knew he was very good at. In other words, he was a round peg in a square hole. And so when he found where he needed to be, all of a sudden he flourished. And I think technology will broaden the number of jobs, and people are going to start finding where they fit. It's not just one job anymore. It's not just go work for this company and do whatever they tell you. No, it's finding what fits your expertise and your ability. And everyone is smart.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has ability. Everyone has a gift. They just have to find out what it is.
Yep, I think that's a good place to end it. So hopefully AI will help us find out what those talents and abilities are. Is there anything you'd like to say as we wrap this up?
You got the music going there, David?
It's going right now.
Sons of Sequoia podcast. We say keep on talking, but listen more than you talk and try to understand what the other person is saying.
We'll see you in the next one, everyone.
Bye.